Hi, I'm Sam Taggart, host of the D2D podcast, where all things door-to-door come under one roof, in one community, up-leveling each other, all over the country. Go join our group, D2D Can't Knock This, for more questions and answers and insights on door-to-door trainings. Also, register for our event at d2dcon.com. Don't forget to check out the D2D University and Door-to-Door Planner to really up-level and increase your performance. Now stay tuned for this episode on the D2D podcast. Okay, I'm here with Kirk Brown. He is a chief, how do you say it?
Chief investment officer,
head
of investments, something like that.
The financial beast is what we'll give him the title.
Yeah.
Over 25 years of financial planning and investments, and he is a speaker at Door-to-Door. So we're excited to dive into your story here, so we kind of get to know you a little bit more. So when you're speaking to us, we're like, dang, there's Kirk again.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. This is definitely my first Facebook Live.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm usually speaking at like these really boring conferences with accountants and attorneys and stuff. So this will be way more fun.
This will be fun. So if you're listening or watching this, we're going to dive into his story a little bit more, and we're going to dive into really how to keep your money and make it work for you versus go spend it, because we're like athletes, and we're going to kind of really dive into your philosophy. You've trained multiple big door-to-door companies. You understand our niche because you've worked with a lot of people our age that have made good money, and so that's what kind of makes you unique, where most financial planners, they look at the door-to-door sales guys and they go, I don't know, I don't really want to, no, I want some guy that's in his 30s that has a retirement. But it's like, no, we have the compounding interest in our favor, so we've got a lot of cool, unique benefits, young and hungry, and so I think this will be fun. So as we dive into this, feel free to share the Facebook Live, or if you're listening to this on a podcast, add Kurt on Facebook or find the Norden group. So he is also one of their advisors. He helps make sure their money's doing what it's supposed to, getting good ROIs. And Norden Groups could be one of the sponsors, so we've got to give them a big shout out. So
definitely,
yeah. So let's
thanks for having me. This will be fun.
Let's dive into it. So how'd you get into the finance world? I mean, as a kid, when you're 6, were you sitting there divvying out your quarters and tell me?
Definitely not. So I actually grew up blue collar. My dad was a mechanic, an elevator mechanic.
Oh, really?
And no one ever graduated from college in my family, so I really didn't have any background in investments or white collar or business or anything like that, And when I went to college really to play basketball. And
you ball?
Yeah, I played basketball at a school in California. And,
I like it.
Yeah, so I just started hearing about the market and picking up on some stuff. And to me, the stock market seemed like a big poker game, kind of. So I just was fascinated by it. It was really more of a hobby. I wasn't sitting around thinking, oh, this is going to be my career or something like that. And it just sucked me in. Just something I really got into, and I started messing around. I was a little bit of a math nerd, so I started playing with kind of an idea, something, kind of a trend I noticed in the stock market.
Yeah. And
I started messing with it, and I wrote a little basic program around this trend.
Okay.
And
not every average side gig's
this
normal
is
kid.
No. This is awesome. This is where I start nerding out with it.
This is cool.
And it was just really, like I said, it was a hobby. I thought I was going to be an architect. That was the direction I was going. And this thing kind of started working. My little program started working. So I'm trading student loan money. I'm because I got no money, And by this point, I've transferred universities, and I'm not playing ball anymore. And, I should be out having a social life and dating and things like that. And I'm holed up, writing this program. And starts working. And then I started getting in those fake investing competitions where you get the fake
the
money.
Investopedias.
Yeah. Here's a fake $1 million, or here's whatever. And I started winning some of those with this little program.
And people are like, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah.
That's what everybody asks, right? They're like, how's he doing it?
Oh, totally. So then there was a gentleman that was kind of a mentor of mine, and it was really influential and important in my life, but he was worth a ton of money, founded a big publicly traded company, came to town one day and took me to lunch and said, hey, I heard a rumor that you're working on something. What are you working on? And so I told him, and he got out his checkbook. And I'm living on $300 a month. It's literally my budget. I'm driving this Honda. It's got 250,000 miles on it, And he wrote me a big old check, $100,000, personal check to me. At the time I was $100,000 was more money than I ever thought I was going to see.
Wow.
It's the beginning of my junior year in college. So I throw it in an account, and I start trading with my strategy, and immediately get blown up.
Just
I'm down
backfires.
I'm down 40% by the time the check even cashes.
Wow.
and totally stressed out of my mind. So I stopped going to class. I'm on scholarship. I stopped going to class. I start obsessing 24/7 about
when
fixing
somebody
this thing.
entrusts you with $100,000 when that's more money than you'd ever seen.
Someone you love.
Yeah.
Someone who's close to you, you know. And it was funny. He actually called me and he said, "Come see me." So I went and visited with him in his house.
And you're probably sitting there sweating bullets.
Yep. And he says to me, and this really changed things for me. He said, "I don't want you to worry about it because $100,000 to me means nothing. And every penny you and I make together, I'm giving away. We're just donating.
It's play money.
Yep.
Okay.
And that really took the pressure off.
That's
and
big.
allowed me to go back to the war room and kind of like feel better about what I was doing, you know. And we made the money back. Then we made a bunch of money. We grew it to $1 million, a couple million, and we grew this little fund to $17-18 million. And
$100,000 to $17 million.
Yeah.
Is that like adding money, or is that like,
there was new money coming in as we went? Yeah, not just the $100,000.
Yeah, I was like,
right.
dang, that's like
right.
I can't even do the math.
No. There were some new clients, and he added more into it
because it's like this is working. We're getting ROI.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm, and by this point I've lost my scholarship because I never go to class anymore. And I'm living in this tiny apartment, and then my fund was actually bought by an investment bank that was looking for traders.
So did you own the fund,
yeah.
or did he?
We both did. Him and I
okay,
did.
That's what
we co-owned it.
So what was the fund called? I'm curious.
It was just our names. It was Winwood Brown.
Okay,
it was the name of
the
our
Winwood Brown fund.
Yeah, it sounded like an accounting firm more than it sounded like an investment firm.
That's awesome.
And this investment bank that I traded with called Montgomery Securities. It doesn't exist anymore. It was bought by Bank of America, but they liked what I was doing.
How'd they hear about this?
I traded with them.
Oh,
they were a counterparty to a bunch of my trades. So I'd call traders in New York, and we'd trade. And then they needed traders for their team. And they said, "We want you to come." So I packed up, moved to San Francisco. They were headquartered in San Francisco. And then I lived on both coasts. So I would commute back and forth between Manhattan and San Francisco.
Works when you're a single guy, right?
Oh, yeah. No family.
Yeah, you're just
no wife.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly. And that was it. That's really how I got in the business and really started doing this. As time went by, I started working on a little team of people that would work with these big executives of corporations, CEO of Apple, CEO of Google. And we were a little behind-the-scenes team that would help these guys because they own a ton of one stock. And the problem is they're worth a ton of money, but they can't sell the stock because their insider trading policy doesn't allow them to. It looks bad to shareholders. But what you can build are these fancy derivatives that make it like they've sold their stock without anybody knowing that they've sold their stock.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I did for a while. So
that's cool.
Definitely on the math nerd side for sure. But that was really kind of where my career, as it started working through, and then my clients became pensions. We used to manage money, part of Coca-Cola's pension, part of Delta Airlines pension, people like that, and so yeah, that's how I got in this business. Was kind of my evolution.
So what was the pinnacle of like? Okay, I at one point was managing X amount of money. Like, how much money was under your management at one point?
Yeah, when I was at the bank, I would directly oversaw about $50 billion ish, maybe just a hair less.
That's with a B, guys. $50 billion.
Which when you're on Wall Street and you're working at that level with those kinds of banks, it's a lot of money, but it's somewhat normal. That's really
it's kind of like
I was at
you
B of
don't deal
A,
with the hundred thousands. It's like that's like $1 is 100,000.
And that's really how I got to be where I am now. Is that I never met a normal guy, husband and wife, family, and ever talked about their money. Everybody I dealt with was institutions, corporations, pensions and things like that. But as I started getting to know these end investors in these funds, I started to realize that they did not understand how much they were paying for their investments. And that's the short story. That's how I got to where I am now.
How do you mean by that?
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people didn't catch that.
Yeah. So the way this works is the average person owns mutual funds and ETFs and maybe some hedge funds or other different types of investments. What most people don't understand is even their wealth advisor, their financial advisor, doesn't really frequently know how much cost is embedded inside of these investment vehicles because you can hide it from them.
Yeah.
So when I was at the bank, we would build structured product. We call it structured product or investment product or whatever. We'd build product that didn't make it very easy to see what the costs were.
Yeah.
Well, then we would put it out to our financial advisors at Bank of America, right? And they would just sell it. And they didn't even know. So the funny thing is the average person walks into a financial planner and says, I want a stock portfolio, right? And they build it, and the financial planner says, oh, your fee is 1% or 1.5% or whatever they charge, right? But that's not really what you're paying.
Yeah.
You're paying a lot more, you just don't know. And the bank lobby is very powerful, so the bank lobby keeps these gates up that make it legal to not show clients what they're paying.
Wow.
And the way that pensions invest then is much more sophisticated. They own the same stocks and bonds that Bill Smith owns, but they do it in a much more efficient way. So the firm that I run today allows families of all sizes, the guy with 50 grand up to 50 million, to invest more like a pension would invest.
Versus...
more transparent, lower cost.
Yes.
You know.
Well, because, I mean, it's funny because I was getting my year-end financials or whatever, and I have this insurance policy. It's like a life insurance, I'm overfunding or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a lot in fees. I'm just like, you're ripping half the money away just out of... And I was just like... And I'm sure that there's even more on top of that I don't even see.
Yeah. There's a lot that people don't know. So I actually spend a lot of my year working with CPAs around the country. I'm a certified trainer of accountants to kind of help them learn what are your clients really paying, right? And it's very illuminating for people when they find out. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't own stocks and bonds. It just means there's a more optimal way to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
So where did you get all your knowledge? I mean, like, did you finish college?
Nope.
Okay.
Drop out.
Man,
still no one in my family's graduated from college.
Common trend here. Common trend.
If you're in the Brown family, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it's funny. The last 4 or 5 podcasts I've done with really powerful people, they're dropouts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not saying don't go drop out of college, but it's funny. Like,
my wife threatens me all the time. She says, by the time the kids are old enough, you need to have a degree so you can tell them that you have a degree. Yeah.
So I guess my question is, yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's like, oh, in order to even get hired on as a financial planner and stuff like that, you have to have your bachelor's or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just kind of took the entrepreneur route. You're really good at what you did, so then they just were like, we don't care that you have a degree. It's working.
Yeah, and you know, when it's like any industry, once you're in the game, anything, right? And you're a pro, nobody cares anymore. Nobody says what's your GPA. Nobody says where'd you go to school. When I was in New York, we hired people all the time that were dropouts. I mean, because they were self-taught and they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, I could tell you some pretty good stories about guys that walked in off the street. One guy was a UPS driver, dropped out of school, had a couple kids, you know, badly wanted to work on Wall Street. No one would give him a break, you know, and he self-taught. And he was so impressive that he walked in the door on a cold call, literally went to our secretary and said, I want to meet with somebody. We took the meeting and hired him.
And then did he do well?
Oh, rock star. He's still at Goldman Sachs today, makes big time money. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what did you do to self-teach yourself? Because a lot of people are, let's kind of dive into the education behind the finance, because I would never know that all these fees, or I would never know where to do this. So it's like, if I'm a door-to-door guy or I'm a leader and I've got some money and it's like, I know I don't want to go blow it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you didn't even have the money to even go invest when you were first learning, right? But like, what tools and things did you do to self-teach yourself? Like,
it's funny, it's and you and I were talking a little offline before we started about how it's not too dissimilar from what guys in your industry do. You have a niche industry, and guys that are really good at what they do they get paid well. But there's no way to go to school for it, right? There's no way to say I'm gonna go major in door-to-door sales or something like that. What you find is people that are crafty, people that have grit, right? People that say, I need to understand that and I'm going to go find that, It's the same thing. I tell clients all the time, when you're out thinking about making an investment, I don't care if it's in Bitcoin or real estate or a blue chip stock portfolio, right?
We're going to talk about Bitcoin for a second, so keep watching this if you're watching
we'll
this.
Talk Bitcoin.
We'll talk that for a minute, because I was like fascinating. But anyway, keep going.
So, it's kind of the same thing. You can't just walk into somebody and just accept what they're saying, even if they seem like a good person, because there's a lot of good people that they themselves don't really even understand fully some of the ramifications of what they're doing. So it's like anything else. You've got to triangulate it, right? I got to go talk to 5 people. I got to be reading. I got to be doing my homework. And when you sit with me, you should ask me, after I try to sell you something, you should then ask me, what in this is going to blow up? What is the soft spot of what you're talking to me about? Because everything has a downside.
Yeah.
Everything. right?
And most people are trying to sell you a
That's
product.
Right. That's right.
And they sell you on the benefits.
Yep.
And they hide the downsides.
It's just like if I slide a piece of paper in front of you and I say, sign this so we can start working together, you should say, no. I'm going to go home, talk to my wife, talk to some other people, do my homework, talk to a CPA I trust, talk to, And people have different opinions, so you do have to pick at some point. There's no universal right thing.
And that's what I find, like with finance, I swear, it's like everybody and their dog thinks there's some guru, and everybody that's made money and it's like there's so many different directions to go.
That's right.
Like somebody's like, why are you not doing real estate? And the guy's like, why would you do real estate when you could do this? When
that's right.
I've got a perfect formula in the stock market.
Yeah.
And I guess my question would be, how do you know who to trust?
Yeah.
And then where would you recommend diversifying?
Yeah. It's important that people know that there's an arrogance. You know how you go see a doctor? There's sort of like a doctor arrogance, like a 100%. Medical arrogance. There's the same thing in the financial community.
Oh,
you sit down with people and they say, no, this is the right way to build a portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay, that's garbage. And here's why. There are dozens of ways to make good money. Making money is not the issue. The issue is building an investment program, a retirement program, or whatever you want to call it, that works for you. Because you can structure people's portfolios in a variety of ways. Yep. So the important thing is the characteristics of it. I know people that have only owned real estate their entire lives and crushed it. But I also know people that have only owned real estate and never did very well. Right? Yep. Same in stocks. Same in bonds. Right? Whatever you do. So the first thing you want to be talking about with somebody that is a perceived expert is they need to not be selling you.
Yeah, I was.
They need to be consulting with you.
Great advice,
right?
Nugget. Write that down.
It needs to be what is important to you, and so when you sit and you start having the conversation, it needs to be laid out to you different scenarios. Because if you do real estate, there's great things and horrible things about real estate. Same with stocks. Same with cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
So we have to understand that. So you have to feel like before you make an investment, you understand here's what the good merits of this thing are, and here's what some of the potential negative merits of this thing are. And it has to be such that you literally you could take every penny that you ever make and do nothing but buy blue chip stocks the rest of your life, and you'll do fantastic. But you have to be ready for the good and the bad of blue chip stocks.
Yeah.
And what I find is that different things appeal to people. Let me give you an example. Liquidity. Okay. Fancy word. Definition of liquidity. How fast I can turn something into cash, right? That's all liquidity is. Real estate can be not very liquid sometimes. Oh, yeah. Because you say, I can't sell it tomorrow. I have to wait for the right buyer. I have to maybe wait for the right market, the right structure, right? So for some of my clients, they say, I need liquidity. I sleep better at night when I know I can go to cash immediately. So then I know the types of things that are important for them.
Yeah, where some people are like, I can't have liquidity because I don't have the discipline to, which that was my case. I'm like, I'd take my back end, I'd put it in real estate because I'm like, I then can't mess with it. And it served me because of my style. And
we represent all sorts of people. I actually, you mentioned at the beginning, I've worked before with some big door-to-door companies in the country. And their management, their senior management. And I compare you guys to pro athletes.
100%.
Because you're young, typically. And
you've worked with athletes, right?
That was what I was going to say. So we have NFL and NBA clients, right?
Yeah.
It's very similar. And there's a mentality to that of the money's always going to come. I'm money. Right? I got confidence. I know I can make money doing this, so I'm always going to make money doing this. But look at guys like Evander Holyfield. They make $250 million in their career, and they're bankrupt. Right? So it's not really in the end going to be how much you make. It's going to be what you did with what you made. And it's an important principle people don't understand. You don't have to make millions and millions and millions. We have clients that were farmers, dentists, whatever. That in a single year never made more than $300 or $400 which is really good money. But now they're multimillionaires because of the discipline they had in their lives, how they invested, how they did their taxes and things like that.
Yeah, and I think the common fall in our industry is that. I mean, 100%. Because I've worked with and I can coach, and part of the groups that I'm part of, I'll see 40, 50-year-old men going out and knocking and have zero retirement, have zero money, and they're living still deal to deal. Yeah. It's not even paycheck to paycheck, which is sale to sale, right?
And do you know that those people, no matter how much they make in a year, that's what they'll keep doing.
What they'll keep doing. And it's like, it's so funny because some of them are living on the highlight days. They're like, well, back when I met with this Kirby guy, and it was so funny. I won't say any names, but he was like 55, and he's still out grinding Kirby. And he was like, I was on the front cover of the magazine worldwide in Kirby in the 80s, and I was
that's
like,
funny.
That's really cool. But
you're like, that's been a couple years, dude.
Yeah, I'm like, that was the 80s, man. Like, I wasn't even born. Like, and
totally.
I'm like, but you obviously didn't. Like, if I'm you, I would have done something with the money that you were on the magazine with, and wouldn't be knocking doors at 55.
Yeah.
Like,
and you never know. I mean, we have plenty of people in our client base that earlier in their life they were rainmakers, but something happened.
Yeah.
They got sick. They got a rare disease. They got they had a child that required tremendous amounts of money to take care of for the rest of their lives. You don't know what the future holds. So, and it doesn't mean you can't live well. I have clients that'll come to me and say, I want to buy this $250,000 car. Okay, if you literally just bought a $100,000 car and put the $150,000 into an investment instead, that's going to become worth $2 million when you retire, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be so. It's not that you have to live like you're poor. There's just principles that you can put in place today, right? Let me give you an example, a numerical example.
Exactly.
Of this, okay. Yeah. So let's say, and this is just these are round numbers, but if you took $15 a day, and most people watching this could put away $15 a day.
Oh yeah.
Okay. If you invested $15 a day in the blue chip stocks, S&P 500 kind of investments, for the next 30 years, okay, so from 35 to 65, okay, it's going to be worth roughly $1 million after fees and taxes and things like that. Wow. Okay, great, that's great. If you start when you're 30, okay, just 5 years earlier, okay, it's worth $1.8 million, almost twice as much for just starting 5 years earlier. If you start 10 years earlier, it's worth 2.8.
Wow.
Okay, so the great lie is that I will start investing for my future when I make more. Okay, that's a lie. Because what happens is most people just, if they don't have the discipline to save a little now, they actually never have the discipline to save. Because you can start saving a small amount now. And as you make more, save more. And a simple way to do that we do with clients is we can literally set your paycheck up that when it deposits into the bank account, X% is immediately peeled off. So you just say 10% of everything I make, no matter if I have a great quarter, a terrible quarter, 10% always goes into my future, right? Those are the people that crush it. Those are the people that they look back and they're set, no matter what they did in their career. But if you don't have the discipline to do that, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You'll never have the money.
And that was one of the main principles in the book Richest Man in Babylon, which is one of my favorite finance books.
Great book.
And it's just like, if you literally just take 10%, it's not anything crazy.
Yeah.
Just put it aside for your future.
Yeah.
That's how you build wealth.
I'll tell you, when I was in college, I'll tell you a funny story. I was interning at a financial planning firm. I was a freshman or sophomore in college, and one of the clients came in one day, and he had several accounts. He was worth a ton of money, but one of the accounts was very special to him, and he had some name for it. And when he left, I said to the financial planner, I said, well, why is that account so special to that guy? It was worth about $1.1 million, if I remember right. And she said, that's his change account. And I said, what's a change account? She said, when he was 16 years old, he put a jar on his desk, and every single time he found a coin, a quarter, a dime, whatever, he put it in the jar. And every 30 days, his dad would go put it in the market for him. And this guy's in his 60s now. For his entire life, every time he found a coin, he invested it. And it was worth $1.1 million. Literally just finding coins. Right? So
that is awesome.
And there are apps like Acorns and some of these apps on your phone that every time you charge something on a credit card, it rounds it up to the next dollar. You've seen these apps. So if it's $1.83, the 17 cents that rounds up to $2 gets invested in a portfolio.
There's apps for that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
What are those
Acorns
apps?
is a big one.
Acorns?
But you can search other ones. There's other competitors.
So it's basically putting away your acorns.
Yeah, you're just rolling up to the next dollar for your whole life.
Which would never...
You'd never even notice.
Never even notice.
No.
So that is so cool.
Yeah. So you think everything now goes on a credit card or a debit card, right? So just
185.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Now
just roll it up.
Yeah.
Here's 17 cents. Here's 25 cents. But over the course of your life, you're going to have a boatload of money.
So what other principles have you found? Like, that's one good solid principle. What other principle would you say would be impactful for this audience? That's like, man, if you could do that, what other things could?
The main thing is, don't feel funny about investing small amounts of money. It feels weird to us. We think that it's awkward to take $3 a day and put it in a jar. We all feel funny
even
about that.
$100 a month. It's like, well, that's like a lot to work just to put $100 into an account and then have to invest.
But it can all be automated now.
Yeah.
And people make the mistake, and this is by far the most important principle.
I think
they make the mistake of waiting because they think they need more money.
Guilty.
Right?
No, super
Start
guilty.
small, but start early. That's number one. By far, that's number one. The second thing, you've heard it 10,000 times, you absolutely have to spend less money than you make. You just have to.
Yeah.
The only time that we can be borrowing money is for really important strategic investments, like a house, possibly education,
Why do you think, what's the psychology behind, and maybe even if you could cater it to our generation, or like, why do we do that? Like, why do you think we spend more than we make? I mean, it seems like it's such a simple textbook.
Well, I don't want to get too philosophical, but I actually think from meeting with thousands of clients over the years, there's a psychology that says people feel like when they acquire things, I buy a nice car, I buy a nice suit, right? That it makes them feel better about themselves. Well, that's a problem. If buying things is what's making us feel better about ourselves, then that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's actually the big driver of this, because I know you and I both know guys that roll around in a Toyota truck that's 9 years old, and they wear the tennis shoes and their jeans, but in their bank account got $8 million.
Kelly Walker, CEO of the company I'm working for. I mean, he wears Walmart jeans. He has a 9-year-old beater car, and he's worth millions.
Yeah, and I have several clients like that you would never know. Those people have it right. They're dialed in, and they might go on nice vacations, go to Hawaii for a month, or let's do whatever. But that's the balance we have to get right. We have to be saying that economic freedom is freedom. I'll give you an example. I got a good buddy of mine that has been on Wall Street for our whole career, and him and I are the same age. He makes really good scratch, right? Every year he makes between $500,000 and $1.5 million. That's basically his range, right? He has wanted to get out of that racket for 20 years because so much about it he hates. He works 80 hours a week. He's on the road all the time, right? But he has never had the discipline, him and his family, to put the money away that would allow him to walk.
His lifestyle is $1 million.
He has to have the income, and it becomes the handcuff. And it's what leads people to be unhappy in what they do, because the amount of money is totally irrelevant, right? So that's why these principles of economic freedom are so powerful.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to hear more about that at Door-to-Door conference.
Yeah, we'll talk about more at the conference. I got a couple things, specifics that will,
Exactly, I'm like, dang, I'm like, all right, January 26th.
I got some things I'll put up on the big screen, and we'll talk through a couple of these ideas,
So I want to dive a little bit into Bitcoin. I'm really actually, because I know that's like this like hype, right?
Yeah.
And I just was reading this Warren Buffett article, like, from a smart financial standpoint, everybody's crazy, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you also have people that are really high profile, people like Mark Cuban that's putting a bunch of money in it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so being in your shoes and working on Wall Street, watching stocks all day, entering Bitcoin, you were telling me off camera you had bought Bitcoin how many years ago?
Yeah, a long time ago, about 3 years ago, something like that, 3.5 years ago.
I did the math. If you would have bought Bitcoin, like even $1,000 3 years ago would be worth a hell of a lot of money today.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, this guy basically broke my arm to buy a little of it. He's a programmer, and he just started talking about this blockchain technology, and he just said, I don't know where it's going, but you got to own a little. And I'm like, it's a lottery ticket. Let's just put a little tiny bit of money into an account, And but I now can't go into a meeting. Okay.
Oh, I'm sure everybody brings it up.
It's stocks and bonds and pensions and foundations, and I don't go into a meeting without being asked about crypto.
I'm sure, and it's almost annoying. Like, I had a friend yesterday, I was at a buddy's, and he's like, my office, we made a cardinal rule, they can't bring up Bitcoin, because he's like, it almost got so annoying.
I love it.
But
here's what I compare it to, and this
I'm curious.
First of all, the truth, as it usually is always in the middle. It's not Warren Buffett, right? It's not reality. It would have been like in the late 90s saying, oh, no, the internet is going nowhere. Clearly blockchain is going somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that technology is so powerful
that
it's going to evolve into something. The problem is we don't know what.
Yep.
If you came to me in 1997 and you said, the internet, okay, this is 20 years ago. The internet was new. I mean, we were logging onto AOL on a dial-up modem, right? I mean, it was like, but if you did that, how do you profit from that? Now, that's harder. It's easy to say the technology is going to explode. but it's hard to say where do we make
What's
money.
the value?
Because do you know how many .com companies went to zero? Many, hundreds, right? So there were companies that raised $1 billion and lost it all in less than a year because it didn't adopt, it didn't turn the corner. So I look at crypto the same way. It's going to be a real thing, and it's going to be a powerful thing. We just don't know yet. So when we're in that situation, you just have to be prudent. You have to own a little or none. You don't have to own any. But if you need to own some, own a little. If you put a lot of your portfolio into it, you're asking for trouble. Because this has the merits of being just like real estate was in 2006. I remember guys coming to me in my neighborhood, guys that made $50,000 a year, that were buying 3 and 4 houses to flip them on speculation. And I remember people saying to me, yeah, but real estate never goes down in value. It never goes down in value. That's total crap. Of course it does, right? And these people got buried, right, in the financial crisis. 1988, 89, internet stocks, same thing. Okay, internet's going to take over the world. And people got destroyed. We knew people
and
that
it did take over the world. It just didn't, it's
That's
all
right.
this, we don't even know how.
That's right. There's tremendous capital destruction that takes place when you're on the leading edge of things. A lot of things just have to vaporize, right? So there were people that invested in all .com stocks, and then they basically were retired and had to go back to work as a door greeter at Walmart because their whole portfolio was in internet stocks, right? So crypto is going to be the same way.
Yeah.
It's got to be a relatively small portion of your portfolio and also maybe spread out, not just Bitcoin, but let's pick a basket of technologies. And so that's basically our take on Bitcoin. People like to make a name for themselves, so they want to be in the media saying one extreme thing or the other extreme thing, and that is never the right answer.
Yeah,
right.
No, it's just balance, and I think it's another good principle of finance. It's like, a guy once told me, he's like, you got to have your long term, your short term, your kind of really short term, quick liquid like a bank account, and then you got to have your home run bucket. Yeah, that's like,
and especially for your guys that you work with that might watch this, you're going to have some real rainmakers in your group, and I mean people that year in and year out have done very well. We always encourage those clients to make sure they've got a portion of their portfolio that is rock solid. It's literally the portion where tomorrow you get in a car accident on the freeway on your way to work, and you have a hard time working ever again, and you're okay, right? So if you follow that rule, you're going to take risk in your life, but you're only going to take it with what you can lose.
Yeah.
You'll have this portion buttoned down. A lot of us maybe don't have that privilege yet. We haven't made that kind of money yet. That's why we've got to be putting some away. Yeah. So eventually we do have that privilege, right?
Yeah, I think that goes back to the simple principle of it's okay to invest little amounts.
That's right. That's right.
And
like this Acorns app.
Yeah, the Acorns
right?
app. I'm going to go download it.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap up the podcast, and honestly, like, I've appreciated your time. Like, this has been
happy to do this. This is fun.
I'm like, let's keep jamming.
This is fun.
I know, but for those that are watching, like, the Norden group's going to be there, and I think that's one of the things that really makes you guys unique is you make a turnkey solution, and kind of getting to know you guys a little bit more. It was like we'll help be the consultants, we'll help be the people that are going to just say, we'll walk you through whatever fits your lifestyle,
right?
Versus where most financial people, like, and not to bash on anybody, but I've been hit up probably by 30 Northwestern guys, know what I mean?
Of course, and
like,
most of your viewers have.
Yeah,
no doubt about
you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, and it was funny because I had a few reach out and want to be part of D2D Con, and I was like, honestly, like, I just feel like you have so much in it for you versus not so much in it for what I'm trying to accomplish. Right. And I think there's some power in having that in a financial group.
And we'll say it again. You said it and I said it. If you feel like you're being sold, walk.
Yeah.
Because it should be a natural evolution from this is our philosophy and this is your philosophy, and then here's how we might do this into what we actually do, and then we can talk about what's actually being sold.
100%.
Right. But you got to get here and connect first before you can really evolve into that,
Yeah, super powerful advice. So to kind of wrap up, like,
we're getting the plant water right now.
Yeah, we're
in real time.
Real time. So to kind of wrap up, like, what books or what things, like, resources would you recommend? Like, is there a favorite book or a favorite podcast or YouTube channel, or, like, if you had to point somebody in the right direction, you're like, I trust these guys. I really like these philosophies.
No, I don't. I don't really operate like that.
Okay,
People have
I'm
a
curious.
tendency to want to have almost like a. People want to be led, right? So
Yeah,
they want to
be
buy into a
led.
philosophy.
Exactly.
They want to be, I'm all Tony Robbins. Or
Yeah.
The truth is that because there is not a right way, there's your way.
Okay.
You have to take the time to learn a few different philosophies, a few different ways of thinking. And what happens is pay attention to what speaks to you.
Yeah.
And then you kind of build your own
because
philosophy.
You might get really excited or passionate about real estate, and you might want to have a little bit more weight there.
Yeah.
Or you might be like, man, I'm really interested in big stocks, or I'm really interested in the little stocks.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
And I think you can make money, like you were saying, you can make money in all.
Right.
So
you have to feel what works for you.
Exactly.
Right.
That's actually really good advice. Because
Yeah.
I think so many times people want to be led, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like they want this turnkey, I don't even know what I'm doing, here you go.
Right.
But it's like, that's
We
not...
love that. We want to say, here's the silver bullet solution.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do this and this. You'll get burned.
Yeah.
You'll get burned. It doesn't work that way. So I like to read everything, and kind of see what fits. But there's a power. Be careful, because you have a lot of smart people that watch this.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will feel like, I'll just do this on my own. Right? There is value with guys that are experts in what they do, and they'll point things 100%. Out to you that maybe you didn't think of before, from tax ramifications and things like this.
Well, here's the other problem, and it talks about this in the Richest Man in the Bible, and it's kind of like the simple principle of this: I don't want to pay you because I know you're making money on me, so I'm going to go try to figure it out on my own.
Right.
And I think a lot of us get in that ego because, I mean, no offense to everybody that's watching this, but most sales guys and we're all hustlers and we've got this big ego, big head, and we think, oh, well, we know how to do that.
Yep.
And I think we fail to realize there's power in paying you there's dividends paid off.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
And we want to kind of be like, well, I want to save every penny I can and be, frugal with my expenses. But it's sort of like running a business. Would you do everything in the firm? No, you're going to hire somebody for finance. You're going to hire somebody for marketing. It's the same thing in your own life. You do what you do well, make the money, find somebody that you trust and you believe in them, and there's a good vibe. You can work together in these kinds of things, and pay them a little money. Because in the end, if you do it right, it'll pay off in multiples. That little bit that you pay them on an annual basis will come back in spades. Most of the clients we work with, just in the tax savings alone, covers any of the costs associated with the investing, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of this, stepping over dollars to pick up dimes idea. Like, the right investment management could down the road for you literally be the difference of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Because that's how the compounding over time sort of works.
Here's an interesting question. Sorry, we'll keep going, but I have this question. Let's hypothetically say I moved down one path with the finance guy, and I'm like 3-4 years down that path, and I realize this isn't jiving. This isn't the right way. I've created a relationship. He's a good friend, maybe family, because it was like my uncle or my brother, and he's a finance guy, so I just went with him.
Yeah.
But it's like, shoot, I'm not getting the return. I'm not getting the jive. I'm not getting the support.
Yeah.
Like, what do you recommend to those kind of people? They're kind of almost stuck down a path.
No, there's a couple things that I think are important principles. I'm glad you're bringing that up. One is that be really careful about investing in anything that can be hard to get out of. I can't emphasize it enough. We have seen more money cooked off by investment programs that you can't get your money out of, right? Be very careful. And I even mean things like annuities and life insurance contracts and things like that can be very expensive to extract from. It doesn't mean you don't use them. Just be very careful about entering into those types of relationships, number one. Number two, always give the feedback. If somebody's working for you, they're working for you. Yeah. So sit them down and say, something doesn't feel right here about this to me, or I'm not totally thrilled about this, or I have some questions about that. So make sure you're communicating, because your advisors can't read your mind. Right? Yeah. And then the third thing is at the end of the day, this is business. You can't stay with your brother-in-law just because he's your brother-in-law. Yeah. Right? Anybody
it's like you're talking your retirement.
That's right.
Yeah.
And anybody that's a professional in anything knows that you have to have fit. If I have a client that comes to me and says, I know what you do works well for you, but I kind of want to be going another way.
Yeah.
How can I not respect that? How can I not say, there's no way my firm is good enough that I fill the need for all people? No, I'm looking for this kind of client, not this kind of client.
Yeah. No, and that's super good advice, because I've been racking my head around that, and it's funny because last year I had that conversation. It's my uncle, and he does a great job. He's a good guy, but it was like 3-4 years in a row, I was getting like a 2%, 3%. I'm like, this is a good market. Like the S&P 500 got a freaking 13%.
Right,
I'm like,
right. We're getting left behind here.
I know. I'm like, come on. So I was like, get more aggressive or something.
Yeah.
And I had to like kick him in the pants. But he then shifted, and this year I got a great return, and I was like, oh, I just need to have that conversation.
Like, too many people are afraid to have the conversation, and partially because they feel like he really knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But that's garbage. If you don't feel like you can call your advisor, what are you paying him for?
Yeah.
His whole point is to partially educate you, help you get to the right place, things like that. You know.
Cool. Well, that was yeah. Let's end on that.
That's great.
That was great advice.
That's great.
Honestly, like for anybody that's looking for good advice, the Norden Group is a great financial solution. And I'm excited to hear from you in a couple weeks.
I'm excited to be at the conference. It's gonna be fun.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good to be here.